Okay. I want to talk about growth and healing and how they don't have to happen as separately as we believe them to, and they can simultaneously happen. And when they do, life just feels lighter and easier and simpler. And like, that sounds cheesy, I know, but like, we can be in a deep healing season and still feel joy. We can be in a season of healing so many different patterns and parts of us and still expand and still grow our business and still grow our bank account and still laugh on a daily, regular basis. Okay. Like, if I could bottle this up for people, well, I have packaged it up actually. And I'm rebuilding a program that I have had for years, but I'm redoing it all because I've learned so much more in the last 5 years around this. And it's such an important conversation that I needed 10 years ago. I needed 7 years ago. I needed even 5 years ago when I made the first program of it. And there's just so many different complexities and layers to the healing process and to the growth process. And this is where life just gets to be so fascinating. Okay. So I want to like just explain a few like foundational pieces that really helped me because actually our human brain likes to understand. That's how we are as humans. Like we want to know why things work the way they work. And I truly think that's why I was able to like grow financially so quickly. Well, to some people so quickly. I looked at it like it was years in the making, but like in the 3D world, oh look, the universe agrees with me. I leave those on as universal signs. It doesn't happen on every video by any means. But like, I went from like having $2,500 months to like $87,000. This is not logical. Cash, no systems to back this up. This is truly just like about the energetics behind it all, which sounds annoying, but I'm going to break this down a little bit. I truly feel like quantum physics came into that manifestation, like law of attraction, all of those things for sure. But there are some key parts of how we are human on how we allow those things to be, right? And so how we allow that to run through us. And so I want to just remind you that like a belief is a thought that we keep repeating. So when we want to change something in our life, whether that's like we're healing a relationship, or we're growing our bank account, or we're starting that new business that's new to us and feels really scary, there are beliefs that are going to run through us physiologically. I'll explain more in the coming minutes here, but they're just beliefs. And so then they keep playing out. Let me just go to my notes because I'm going to ramble here. So, our brain is like, I love this saying, a pattern recognition machine. Okay. So, like, a belief is just something you've practiced over and over. So whatever we think about, we don't even consciously, like this happens subconsciously within us. And so then we create these neural pathways around these beliefs. So then that becomes like our truth. This becomes familiar. This is why change can feel hard, even though it's like not permanent. We have this part of us that like has these thoughts that repeat themselves. And then we have neural pathways. So they're like these little like I call them like little roads for my kids of they continue on and they continue on and they continue on. And the more we use them, the stronger they get. So if you think about if you went, I used to use this example all the time, and I still love it because I think it just explains it so well. If you had a shed in your backyard full of things you wanted to go to, maybe the shed's not the best example, and you go from your house to your shed. Let's say that's where your car is parked. You have a detached garage. Let's shift this a little bit. You have a detached garage. And so you go and you walk to that garage pretty much every day, every day, every day. You don't think about it. And before you know it, months are going to happen. And all of a sudden, you're going to have this pathway along the way, right? Like, think about we're in winter right now here. If you were to walk through the snow on the same pathway, It's going to pack it down. It's going to pack it down. It's going to pack it down. It's easier for you to see where you've been. So you just automatically go. You don't even have to think about it. So those are how your neural pathways work in your brain. That is how beliefs work in your brain. I'm going to break down a little bit deeper on how that comes to form. But like, I just want you to recognize that it's just something that you've been able to do over and over, just like learning to drive a car. There was a time where you didn't know how to drive a car. There was a time you didn't know how to open the car door and then get in the car and then put on the seatbelt and then put it into drive, check your mirrors, all of these things. There was a time that that felt like 1,000 steps to do and like so much effort and work went into it, right? But now you probably, if you're like me in your 40s, you just don't even really think about it. You just get in the car. You do the things, you drive the kids to wherever they're going. You don't have to super think about it. But if you're going somewhere new, you got to think about it. But you don't have to think about getting out of your neighborhood, right? I live south of Calgary. So if I'm going somewhere in North Calgary, like I did a few weeks ago, which is not my norm, I had to really think about where I was going, but I didn't have to for the first part of it. So then I wanted to switch the neural pathway to be able to support me to where I'm going. But I want you to understand that your body is also attached to this. So not only are these neural pathways happening around whatever you're working on right now, okay? You will have the same thoughts, which will then create chemistry within your body that create the same emotions. So then physiologically, you're having these emotions that create these behaviors, and then the behaviors bring the same reality to you all of the time. Okay? So when I was like healing some deeper relationships in my life that weren't feeling very good, I was accustomed to thinking those people were like out to get me, or I wanted to blame them. Blame is a huge piece that we do. Or I wanted to say they're not right, or that they're wrong, or, that they're not nice and they've done things to me that aren't great. That can be true, but it can also be true that they weren't doing it from an ill-intended space. And so what happens is that then we have these same thoughts about them, and then that creates hormones within our body. And then the hormones within our body, we feel sticky and contracted around. Okay. So I just want you to remember that the rewiring can change within the neural pathways within the brain, and then the body can change too. So we're going to talk about nervous systems in a sec here, but I just want to like kind of talk about epigenetics for a minute because I find this very empowering. When I started to learn about epigenetics, I don't know, years ago, I came across and I was just kind of like, what is that? And it's to do with neuroscience, and it's to do with how we used to, and some people would still die on this hill of like DNA is within us. We are the way we are because of the DNA that's been passed down to us. But it's about the environment around us just as much. It's about our stress levels just as much. It's about our belief codes just as much. So those neural pathways, we're not necessarily born with those neural pathways, but the environment around us will shape it. So the people around us, when we're little, when we're older, wherever we are, that will also shape what's going on for our cells. Okay. So just an example of this of like, my kids could get a cold. And I used to be like, oh, it's going to run through the house. Oh, everybody's going to get it. Oh, everybody take all precautions. Or like, there was a time in our society over the last 5 years that they literally told us to lock our children in their bedrooms by themselves so that they wouldn't pass on the germs. But that creates a stress response within us. Can you imagine now sending your child to a bedroom by themselves? You think that's good for you? No, it's not good for you because you're not going to feel great about your child being in their little prison room all by themselves over there, right? And so then you start to think, oh, do I have a sniffle? Oh, is my throat scratchy? Oh, I'm feeling really tired and run down, right? Some of my trainings before I've talked about like my nephew. I just love this because this was like the youngest person. Oh, see, the universe agrees again. The youngest person that I knew that does this. Like I have a few people in my life that do this on a regular, but he does this. I am healthy. I am healthy. And he was just like 2 when he started it. And his mom taught him that. And I think it's just so beautiful because, we will go into that like, what if I get sick? So and so sick. Like I truly, truly believe that is half the reason colds spread the way they spread, flus spread the way they spread, because we're all thinking about how we don't want it. Now, that comes in from a manifestation quantum physics aspect too, where it's like when we're focused on worrying about what we don't want, that's what we're actually calling into our lives. But epigenetics will come to support it. Like it literally affects the cells within your body. So the thoughts that you're thinking affect the cells within you. So if you're saying, I don't feel good, and you know what? Here's another like little loving, love you so much. We will also call in a flu or a cold like that when we just want to hang out and chill and not do anything. But like, what if you just took the day to hang out and chill and not do anything without having to get sick? Like, how much cooler would that be? How much better would that feel? How much less rest and nourishment would you need for that to like run through you? You don't have like rest gets to be just like a baseline. Like you get to have that, okay? But like epigenetics are like little genetics are like switches, right? Like there's little switches within our body that run with ourselves. And so the environment and the thoughts that we're thinking turn them on or off. If I use a totally different example, a kid born in extreme poverty is going to believe that that's the norm. A kid born in extreme wealth is going to believe that that's the norm. That's not genetically passed down through birth. That's through the beliefs, right? So again, our environment for epigenetics includes like our thoughts, our stress, our emotions, our perceptions, our safety, our love, and our presence in our body. So your body is always listening, always listening. So I love doing the deeper inner work. I love it for my clients. I've seen it time and again of like that's where the real change happens when we're like willing to go into inner child, when we're willing to go into nervous system pieces, physiology pieces within us, and also mindset pieces. Like it all gets to work cohesively. Synergy is about threes to me. And so that's where all of this gets to come together. The intuition, the like body presence, all of that. And so for a long time, I actually shied away from sharing those deeper pieces because people can get also stuck in those and think that they like, it can be kind of depressing when we start to look at it, right? Where we're like, oh, we're pretty messed up when we look in there. I remember like crying in the fetal position on my floor. This was probably about 7 years ago. Actually, probably 7 years ago this month, in this very spot, because I had my room set up differently. And I was laying on the floor. I'm just like, why did I start this inner work? It's so heavy. It's so brutal. Like, I'm never going to be fixed. I'm so broken. All things I would never use in my vocabulary for anybody or anyone at this point, right? Like, you are not broken. You do not need fixing, but can you feel lighter? Yes. And that's where I think the inner work gets missed sometimes because I think it's important to focus on the good parts of life simultaneously. And it's tricky to do. It is like, I'm not going to lie, I've been in therapy for 25 plus years, on and off. I've done really deep modalities. Some of them have left me feeling really heavy. But this is where this like quantum physics comes in and more metaphysical piece. When we can lean into that side while we're doing the healing side, it doesn't feel so heavy. It doesn't feel so sticky. So, like going into the body, the nervous system, the subconscious, we get to like normalize that and make it that we're doing something that's really supportive, let's say, for our body. We're touching something so real within us. And for a lot of us, it's releasing. For a lot of people in my world, it's about releasing generational pieces, lineage pieces, past life pieces, even, not just this human world, right? And so that comes into play with epigenetics too, of like sometimes things are just passed down through our lineage. And I think it's so powerful to be able to heal those pieces for above and below us, right? And so there's a lot of times that I've said to myself, well, I can heal this or not heal this, and I can pass it down to my children or not pass it down to my children if I choose to heal it. And so then for me, I will choose to heal it every time. Personally, it's not as powerful to think about healing things for my parents. That's like a bonus. Sometimes I would get a little frustrated when I was thinking about healing things for people that are above me in lineage, generationally wise. And I would be like, it's not my responsibility. Why do I have to do this? Because it can feel kind of heavy when you're in that space. And so for me, it's about the people that come in contact with me after, below, that really helps me get into like a more grateful space, a more like, I actually want to heal this stuff space. And it doesn't mean that you have to have kids by any means, but anybody that comes in contact with you after you've done the healing sees a totally different side of you. And so that's the really powerful piece for me. Um, Inner work, like forgiveness work, for example, when we are able to like meet our inner child and like truly love her and not have blame towards others. I went through some on and off seasons of that over the last 7 years for sure, where it was like, oh, this was passed down to me, and this kind of pisses me off, if I'm honest. And again, it's like getting stuck in that heavy space again. So forgiveness work to me is about for me. It's not for anybody else. And I've used this in so many different aspects, like I have had some heavy relationships in my life of people that have maybe not treated me the way I would have liked to have been treated. And I've probably treated people the way they didn't want to be treated too, if we're totally honest, right? This is about radical personal responsibility at the depths within us. But forgiveness work around that, being able to forgive yourself and forgive others so that it's not hanging on you all of the time. To me, this just like opens our channel even more. This opens our intuitiveness even more because we're able to tap in with such different ease than when we were feeling really heavy around a parent, like not treating us great, our those are in quotations. We really break this down in synergy. But like when we have, some stickiness about how we were treated or how we grew up or a relationship that we were in or how our kids are, there's just so much depth available there. But another big piece for forgiveness for me was really about being able to forgive myself. And this had a lot for me to do with finances. I spent a lot of money on my personal development or my growth, my healing journey, so many different things. But like we're talking like in the six figures within a couple of years. And so then not because of that, but because of the guilt and the shame that I actually was holding on to that at a subconscious level, physiologically within the body. I started to then, manifest hard financial times for us for the first time in my adult life. Like it was scary and stressful, and it was hard to even put food on the table, let alone think of like anything positive towards the future or like big about the future. And so it really did, though, give me such compassion and empathy. And this is why I will always believe that everything is working out for us because I did understand, I do understand the depths of finances at such a different level and the power money can hold over us. And I would not have understood that if I hadn't have gone through that experience. Was it heavy at the time? Yeah. And I used to say, would I wish that upon anybody? No. And I don't say that anymore because like if that's the piece that shows you the journey you're meant to be on, then that's the piece. Like it's so good. And so it just does make the journey of healing that much simpler and lighter hearted too, of knowing like everything is working out for me. Everything is happening for me. For me. And that doesn't mean that everything's going to be easy. But when we're in those harder seasons and when we're in those deeper healing journeys, when we can drop into feeling, and I know it's a practice, and I do break this down a lot more in synergy too, But when we can be like, this is happening for me, and we can see that and we can live that and experience that for our own selves, it is so much more powerful because it doesn't have like the same stickiness around it. It doesn't like fully consume life in the same way. We're able to be like peaceful, more peaceful around it. It's just like such a different awareness and such a different, I do call it consciousness within us because I think it's available to all of us. And I do think there's like different levels of our human psyche that we go to. And so like I've started using this in some branding again, and I think it said love always wins. I used to have a t-shirt that says that. And this was like at the beginning of my healing journey that I got the t-shirt, and it's just so true because there is really nobody in the world that I don't look at with some love and compassion. And to be able to share that with my kids, share that with my family and friends around me, it's different. And you know what? People don't come to me to complain about little things in the world because I'm just not available for it. And that comes with that consciousness piece around it because I will zoom out and be able to see the bigger perspective of these things for everyone. It's kind of like, and you probably have a similar viewpoint, or you wouldn't be here, or your soul knows this truth to be true within you of like a bully at school. There's something wrong with that bully. Somebody is bullying that kid. Bullies don't just become bullies because everything's fine in their life, right? So, if they're bullying your kid, that feels different because you have that mama bear instinct of like, hell no, you're not doing that to my kid. And for that, though, I am so grateful that my oldest went through a really difficult season for him because it taught us both a lot about that. And how can love always win in that situation, even when he's not feeling great, even when like, how can I still support him, of course, as his mother through this, but like, there's just a bigger truth available for that. So I do love to go inward for people. I do think we can live more fully. I do think we can live more present, more connected to each other. There's such a collective available for us. And this is what feels good. This is what shifts things. This is how, cheesy as it sounds, we be the change that we want to see in the world. This is how. So I want to talk about like science to energy a little bit here. And this is where I start to nerd out and I get pretty excited. So every single cell in your body is energy, right? This is not a metaphor. This is actually literal. Every cell in your body is energy. Every single thing you have, energy, energy, energy. Like earrings, energy, rings, everything, energy, right? So we have atoms, we have space, we have vibration, we have frequency. So when we're talking about changing our frequency, which I will constantly with clients, this is like not just to be like cool of like, oh, change your frequency. We are like actually changing frequencies. And sometimes that will come with like some ascension symptoms. I have reels on that on Instagram if you want to check those out, but you don't have to have ascension symptoms. But sometimes we will experience that as the human as we are like letting go, and it's what I call a cellular burn off. And so if things have been living physiologically within the body, sometimes we will get a cold then. I had one happen, I don't know, just a few months ago because I had made a podcast for the first time, like speaking publicly about this in like a really bold way. Like I've talked about it, I've thought about it, I've like, talked about this with clients for years, but I had never actually done a podcast where I was like, here is what's going on with your body. There's so many physical parts, like dis-ease that is happening in your body is a physiological response. Bar none. Breaking your arm, not necessarily, but is it always for your highest good? I do think so. I personally do think there's always a reason that something happens in the best way, even when it's hard shit. Okay. So you are an intuitive being. You already know this. Drop in. Your intuition shows up as gut feelings, inner nudges, body sensations, clarity. Sometimes you'll have it like that. That emotional resonance within you, that is intuition isn't random. It's actually information for you. It's data, right? That you are collecting. So I encourage people to think about, especially clients, something bigger outside of us, right? And like, no shade if this is a sticky concept for you. Like, I literally called myself an atheist to my mom, like probably 12 years ago now. No, probably like 13, 14 years ago. And I grew up Catholic. Catholicism was very strong in our family. And I had my second child, and neither of my two children were baptized. And this was really sticky for some family members. And I was just like, for me, there is no God out there punishing my children because I chose not to baptize them. And so this was like the start of my unpacking around religion and spirituality. Actually thought they were exact same thing. And then for like 5, 10 years, I thought they were totally not the same thing. And now I'm kind of circling back a little bit. I just don't agree with the way a lot of religions put judgment out there. And I just, that is not my God. I couldn't say the word God for years. It like triggered me into like, oh, you're weird. I had to call it universe. Some people will call it higher consciousness, the divine. It doesn't matter what language we use, it's the feeling within us. And that gave me full goosebumps. And so, like, just knowing that everything, is connected, we are one, I think is a really big thing. But I want to remind you that if we are energy and everything around us is energy, I'm like thinking of like how like Reiki people, like I have a ton of clients that have some sort of Reiki certification, if not their masters often. Reiki mediumship, anything that really uses the body and the mind connection for messaging in some sort, all of that is energy. So why do we think that we can't heal with that same energy? Like, we can heal ourselves that way if we really turn kind of down the dial on the human side of the sacrifice and the struggles and all of that that we're used to. So it's basically we get in the way as humans. Okay. So I want you to think about, what if the work isn't about forcing change, but it's removing the interference, the like clogged, like I literally get a visual of like gross clogged bathroom drains with like the hair and the gross and the gunk and all of that. And so that gunk essentially is like our overthinking, our self-doubt, our over-processing, our over-analysis, analyzing things, our logicking everything. I literally did a training in synergy last week about the emotional brain versus the logical brain because it's so different. We try to figure these things out, and we've been conditioned to figure these things out in other ways. But if you're intuitive in any way, if you have a connection to God, source, almighty, whatever you call it, then you already have that within you. So I want to remind you that your cells know how to regulate, your nervous system knows how to regulate, your energy knows how to move, your intuition knows where to guide you if you just let it land. It's not about working really hard here. It's not about like sitting down for hours to journal. If that feels good to you, cool. But it's not like one of those things you have to check off. I have to do this so that I heal. Healing can happen like this. We can have one line that comes to us, and it could even be a line that we've heard before, but we have it come through again and it lands deeper within us. And I want to remind you that healing is not being broken. Like I was saying about crying in the fetal position of like, why did I start all this healing shit? Oh, it was a heavy time for me in my life. But it was working out for me. I just didn't know it. Expansion is allowed at the same time. Growth doesn't have to be hard and heavy. It makes me think of the saying, like, it's lonely at the top. And I've experienced little bouts of that for sure. But it's because the belief was already planted there and the seed was there of like, it has to be hard or it has to be lonely or people are going to judge me. And yes, some people are going to judge you. They're judging you right now. You might as well live your life and do what you want to do, right? You get to be human and divine, we'll say. Okay. You get to be healing and wildly alive and having so much fun in life. So, synergy is about stepping into the space where you bring all pieces of yourself together, the human, the intuitive, the expansive, the like heartbroken. And it's not about forcing change or fixing anything, it's that alignment from inside out. I love working through the deep inner work, but I also love bringing joy to it, lightness to it. I'm all about the inner child healing. Fully believe in it. I think there is so much for us to heal within ourselves around that. But then the radical personal responsibility piece is that it doesn't have to be so heavy. I want it to be able to shift your everyday life. I want you to feel free. I want you to be able to show up for your family the way you want to show up emotionally, physically, financially. I want you to feel embodied in who you are. I want you to feel aligned with your truth. Your truth. Not my truth, your truth. Everybody's truth is different. But I think we take on other people's truths just without even realizing it. I know I have, especially when we're like an intuitive being because we pick up all of this stuff around us. And so it's like, how can we keep back to that drain pipe? How can we clear that out and allow everything to flow through for us in just like such a simpler way? There's no backup, there's no it's so gross, the visual I'm getting on this, right? But we need to recognize that the brain does run old patterns. The body physiologically runs old patterns. The overthinking, the lower hormones. I was on meds most of my adult life until 10 years ago. Yeah, 10, 11 years ago. Actually, end of January, I think it was. Yeah, see, again. And I knew I couldn't continue to live that way because I did not like the numb feeling. And the last time I went to the doctor, and if you know me, you will know the story likely, but the last time I went to the doctor, I was so embarrassed and I was feeling so vulnerable. And I think it took me like 4 or 5 days to get in, even though it was like kind of an emergency for my mental health. Like I was in a low space. I felt like a horrible mom, a horrible wife, a horrible daughter, a horrible sister, a horrible friend. Like there was nothing that I felt good about in my life. And it was fascinating because it was actually the first time in my adult life that I had the littlest amount of stress. Our finances were fine. I had 3 healthy children. I was happily married. I was living in a home I liked. I had a beautiful kitchen, which for me was like really amazing. At the time, I had just built a custom kitchen for myself, living in a small town that we loved and adored. We had amazing friends. My kids had amazing friends. I had more support in my life than I ever had of like friendships that really like meant things to me. And I was at my absolute lowest. Doesn't make logical sense, right? But if that hadn't happened, similarly to like the money piece that I was saying, I wouldn't have dove as deep into the things that I have dove into, like the small t trauma that lives on in our body from living experiences. Doesn't have to be. I was like, I don't have trauma. I don't have inner child stuff. I don't need to do that. My childhood was fine. It was great. No big deal. I don't have trauma, even though like my ex-husband actually took his own life. Yeah, traumatic. Well, interesting that I never thought of it that way. My mom, stage 3 breast cancer. Traumatic. Small T trauma. Big time right there. I lived in another province. I couldn't help out the way I wanted to help out. Single mom. Small T trauma. Broke. Small T trauma. these pieces physiologically move and live within the body and continue to create havoc for us. And I really think it's really important to bring all of that on board. I say this because everything is woven together. Everything in life is like a spider web. And when I really dove into the metaphysics and quantum physics of everything and seeing how everything is connected within life energy force, and then learning how everything is connected, kind of like our fascia within our bodies, everything is interconnected. Everything from our brain connected through our body. There's just so many levels and layers to this. So if you want to go deeper into this type of work, I highly recommend dropping into Synergy. It's so good. This is the work that's so good. I've helped I've never actually wrote it down, nor do I have a desire to, if I'm honest, but like so many women call in tens of thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars. I've had clients that have had $100,000 weeks for the first time in their lives from like, that was not the norm, right? That can also cause small t trauma when we're not like prepared for it on a physiological level. I've had clients come in and like grow a business in 3 months and they're having 30K months. But what I've realized is that it's this inner work piece that allows it to stay or continue to feel good, to keep having that inner peace. That is just as important as the dollars. I actually walked away from my business for a while, about 7, 8 months, completely shut it down. Not one client, not any social media, not anything, and gave myself for full permission to walk away and never do this work again because there were, I was feeling nudged that way. I didn't really understand. I was the sole provider at that point. That was scary. But when you know deep within you that something's not working, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it, and it's because I had some clients, not all of them. So if you're one of those clients, I still have a lot of those clients still around. It's not necessarily you, and you know it. Don't double doubt yourself here. But I did have some clients that would come in and just like want the money and not want to do the inner work. And then they would even like blame me when the money wouldn't come. And I had to like grow some bigger shoulders around that of like not taking things so personally. And I'm not in charge of everybody else's journey. And I don't get to, decide people's soul lessons. And now I'm at a place you can blame me for whatever you want. I know who I am deep down. I know who I am deep internally there. And so there was a time where I never thought I'd come back to this type of work. But all it was doing was like conditioning me for a marathon of like, there was a part of that was like, who am I without the money? If I don't have income, if I don't earn a dollar through my business. Because at that point, we were accustomed to like 15 to $20,000 a month. And who am I without that? Because like I can manifest money through my business, but can I manifest money outside of my business for doing no work? Can I do that? How deep are your belief systems around that? And then like I'll again circle back to the very thing we started out with of like that's just a belief code. We're worthy because we are. And I used to hear that and I was like, I don't get it. I can't do it. But I can. And so those months were actually so, so stinking powerful for me of like, can I hold my truth? Can I practice and embody my truth to the depths? And then can I be worthy without money? Can I be worthy with money? Oh, there's just so much there. So if you feel called, I would be so honored. Jump into Synergy. If you have any questions, DM me on Instagram. I'm always open to questions of whether this is a good fit for you or not. And I'll see you on the other side.